All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be getting started in just one moment. If you want to go ahead and grab a seat, we'll be getting started in just one moment.
You can bring the plates of food if you like. Come on. We got to start at 3, though, because these TV guys are like, Zach, we're going to blame it on Eric. No, we can blame it on Larry.
I hear you're blaming it on us.
All right, so I'll put this here.
We picked the time.
Hot mic.
Mel's here. Here's some board.
I'm gonna try. All right, Ian.
Want everybody to turn their phones on silent, starting with Barry.
All right, if you're here, I know everyone has a phone. Please make sure your phone is on silent, on vibrate, as we don't want it to go off during the program and interrupt things. Just getting set here. Give us just one moment and we'll be getting started.
How are you? Jason.
Mel, nice to meet you.
What was your name?
Mel.
Thank you again.
She's nationwide. So much information. Hey, see you back there. I think I saw everybody. We got the chairman of the board, we got our vice chair, we got all of our board members, accredited businesses, we got everybody here. And then we got me. This is good.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Disrupting Scams and Fraud in Virginia, a panel discussion sponsored by the Better Business Bureau of Central Virginia. It is my pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Eric Phillips and I am evening anchor at WRIC TV, the ABC station here in Richmond, Virginia. And I have done a number, just by 2 seconds of background, a number of consumer investigations and understand how important it is to get this type of information out to the public. And it's not the type of thing that you can share just one time because people generally need to hear it a couple of times, maybe even 3 or 4 times before it actually seeps in. So hopefully today's panel will be part and parcel to helping to get that message across. Just a quick reminder to you, not only are we holding the program here in this room, but it's being broadcast live at WRIC.com as well. So anything you say will go out to the world if they can hear it, so make sure that all the mics are live, make sure that you're careful. Without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and begin the questioning today. And when I ask you a question, panelists, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself, I'm gonna give you the chance and honor to introduce yourself. You can do it better than I can. So I'll ask you the first question and you can introduce yourself and then go on to answer the question from there. So Attorney General Jason Miyares, what is the role of the AG's office and staff in identifying, investigating, and prosecuting scams and frauds?
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. I'm Jason Miyares, a hardworking lawyer in Richmond, as the 48th Attorney General of Virginia. We have about 20 plus sections that report to me in the AG's office, and it's pretty broad. It's everything from major crimes and emerging threats to civil rights to consumer protection. But what I tell everybody in every section, no matter what department you work in the Attorney General's office, the mindset I want you to have is that you're the people's protector. No matter what, whether it's from major crime, whether it's your civil rights, or whether it's from corporate misconduct. And we're here to talk about something that we've seen really emerge, which is, there's a lot of great businesses that work in Virginia, that thrive in Virginia. It's part of the reason why we're here at the Better Business Bureau, is to recognize those great businesses that take care of their customers and take care of their employees. But unfortunately, we know there's also some bad corporate actors. Some of them aren't even in Virginia, they're overseas actors. But what they want to do is they want to take advantage of our decency. Right? We are fundamentally at our core a good and decent and even noble country. And we're a trusting country at times. And sometimes you have bad corporate actors that try to take advantage of our decency. And so what is the role? We wear so many different hats. From, we have intake specialists that just take when people call to have a consumer protection complaint. We have dispute resolution units where, and some of the lawyers watching or listening may not like this, but a lot of the disputes can be resolved without having to hire a lawyer. And so we have a dispute resolution unit that the entire purpose is really to enable consumers in Virginia not to worry about going to, say, small claims court or hire a lawyer to draft a demand letter. It's to get our office involved. And I'm a big believer that 90% of life's problems can be traced to either poor or miscommunication. And a lot of sometimes the problem is just some miscommunication. And what we have is these dispute resolution specialists is their job is to get both sides talking to each other. And you'd be shocked at how often once you have communication, and obviously once a business realizes, listen, we've messed up, we're going to do right by you, we're going to get it resolved, we're going to get it resolved. And sometimes it's the customer realizing, you know what we thought we had asked for, we never asked for it. And oftentimes it's just getting people both in the room talking, and we have handled so many disputes that have been resolved without having somebody to waste the money to go to court through our dispute resolution unit. We obviously deal with charitable scams, so we absolutely look at possible charitable scams. And then our largest is when we're doing our consumer protection unit, which can cover everything you can imagine. It could be protecting consumers from big tech. It could be protecting us for some of the things that have happened with the pharmaceutical industry recently. It could be much smaller incidents or data breaches. And so the consumer protection unit are our lawyers that are the ones that actually going to court and doing battle in the courtroom to protect Virginia's consumers. Incredibly proud of the work they do. So we wear a lot of different hats protecting consumers, and we're really proud of it. But it overall goes into that larger theme in our office of being the people's protector.
And certainly we'll be hearing more from you as this hour goes on.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Melissa Trumpauer, I want to ask you, why is it important for everyone, individuals and businesses, to stay updated on the latest scam trends? And please introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Melissa Trumpauer. I'm the Executive Director of the B2B Institute for Marketplace Trust. That is the 501c3 educational foundation of the Better Business Bureau. So we're a charitable organization. We're really focused on the mission of creating a trustworthy marketplace. We believe, obviously, we really love to direct people to those trustworthy businesses that are out there. A big part of our work is, however, looking at those scams that are happening in the marketplace, and we know that they're out there. And so prevention is a real focus for the foundation, essentially. We do a lot of consumer education. We do a lot of research that I can share a little bit with you today. And we work with our network of BBBs who are located across the United States and Canada to do consumer education, training, and fraud prevention workshops. So to answer your question, it's really important to stay on top of the latest scam trends because they change constantly. Scammers know that, so there's old scams, right, that you've all heard of, the Nigerian prince scam. Everyone knows about that. It's a joke, right? So we all know that we're not going to fall prey to that, right? So they changed their tactics with the news, the pandemic, for example. That was a great opportunity for them to switch, start to sell, fake masks, all kinds of things. Any kind of storm that happens in a certain area, that will bring out people who are going to try to defraud innocent people. New technologies is a great way for scammers to also come out, and social media is a great example, right? We've seen a huge increase in scammers targeting people on social media. They're not even shopping, right? They're just browsing innocently, and they get pulled into some sort of situation. And there's many other ways. Just the way we operate is, the fact that from the pandemic we started to spend so much time online, right? That led to a significant amount of online shopping scams, for example. So all of these things change constantly, and that's why it's so important for all of us, both consumers and businesses, to just stay on top of what those trends are so that we can protect ourselves. So it's really about prevention.
I think that your microphone may have fallen off here.
I did. I'm sorry.
Got it? Okay.
I have trouble operating heavy equipment, so I apologize.
Gonna stick this up here. Next question goes to Barry Moore, and I just wanted you to talk a little bit about the BBB and its history.
That's a great question for me because I live for this brand. So my name is Barry Moore. I'm president and CEO of the Better Business Bureau serving Central Virginia. We serve 42 counties to give you an idea of our footprint. There's 94 of me in the United States and in Canada, so we are international. The Better Business Bureau, this is a test, opened in 1912. My board members, Dave Barrett, I would love to put you on the spot, or Vincent, but I'm not going to do that, or Mark, but we started in 1912. We're a nonprofit. We are not a government agency. We have nothing to do. We have zero power other than putting communication together. That's our job. We work for you, the consumer. So I have a lot of bosses in whatever 42 counties, however many citizens there are, and the general here probably knows that number statistically, but I don't. There's a lot of citizens, right? And I work personally for each one of you. And I don't want to talk, I'll let Mel talk about the research, but it's all after the fact, or the general is going to deal with people after the fact. I am here to tell you as a consumer, you have a choice to go to market ahead of time and go to bbb.org, do your research ahead of time, and not find out the hard way what so many people do. Scams each and every day mount. There is so many reasons to check us out first, and there's a lot of sites out there for profit. We are the one site, the one organization is not for profit. So keep that in mind. We have a staff very small. We have women that are on staff that verify reviews, which is a big deal. The public companies do not do that. We read the reviews and make sure, to the best of our ability, we verify those are real reviews, which then helps you make a decision who to do business with.
The BBB is a resource that a lot of people just don't use. Maybe they don't know what's out there, don't know exactly what you do. So that's important information for people to
Just,
know.
you know, Eric, you bring up a good point, and so I'm full of statistics. I believe if I get the numbers right, and somebody will tell me in the room if I'm wrong, it's about 900,000 inquiries we get at this office a year. Wow. That's a lot of inquiries. And then complaints around 10,000, 11,000 we have to close out. And what I've learned, I came out of the auto business, I come out of the for-profit. What I learned about complaints today, because of social media, it's so easy. CSI started in the car business around 1989. CSI is Customer Satisfaction Index. Some of your businesses have to deal with that. CSI started with Infiniti and Lexus coming to our marketplace. I believe that's where it started. They set a new bar because car dealerships and manufacturers were not reaching the plateau they needed to satisfy customers. And so CSI now, when you move it ahead to our reviews, are more important. I believe when a consumer rates with a 5-star review of a company, and they mean it, is more valuable than a complaint that just says the steak wasn't cold, or it wasn't hot, or it wasn't cooked right. It's not a real valid complaint in my world, but that's what we read a lot about. So thank you.
So Attorney General Miyares, what are the types of frauds and scams that we see the most frequently?
Well, I mean, I think you see, you know, as we have gotten through COVID, which was incredibly disruptive in society, and it accelerated the pace of a couple different trend lines we were already seeing, one of which is an explosion of online consumerism and online retail. That is both a blessing and a curse. It is a blessing from a convenience standpoint. Obviously, one click and something can be potentially delivered to your door. It also means that bad actors take advantage of online consumerism. And so we have seen an absolute increase of online scams, particularly targeted towards our seniors. So one of the departments, one of the divisions we have in our office is called the Triad program. It's a joint program with both law enforcement, senior caregivers, and senior volunteers to get this information into the hands of the most vulnerable. And then, the best way to fight bad information is with good information. Well, there's a lot of bad information out there. I've even dealt with it in my own household with my own mother, who gets an email and says, do I need to click on this? And so getting that information, we've also seen a level of sophistication as well of targeting seniors, or they will call and say your grandson, your nephew has just been arrested at an incident in college or in the city or county over, I'm calling from the local sheriff's office with the bail bondsman, please wire me money for them to make bail. That happened. People posing as Amazon. Your Amazon package has been delayed or misplaced. We're trying to track it down. Can you provide us the credit card number you use to track this information? So it is targeting all Americans, but they have been completely voracious on targeting our seniors. And so what we want to do is make sure our seniors are absolutely aware of that. So it's both through the phone, through online, through mass emails that you get. All it takes is one click on one website at the wrong time. Oftentimes I'll also pose that they were the IRS. So the general rule of thumb is never give anyone your social security number, never give anyone your credit card or banking information, period, end of the story. If someone calls, you hang up. All of us generally know the banks that we bank with and the websites we bank with. They are very, very good at also spoofing, where it will almost look like a normal website, and you need to look at a couple of key data points to make sure that it is not. So it goes back to, I think, one of President Reagan's old saying, trust but verify. That would be what my advice would be. Anybody who's doing online shopping, you need to verify everything you do, because there's too many bad actors, and tragically, a lot of them are overseas actors. And so it is not as easy as you may think that once something occurs, tracking them down. There's a lot of these overseas internet and bot farms that will go after innocent Virginians, innocent Americans. Very, very hard. These transnational organizations are very, very hard to track down, and it really requires a federal effort. And tragically, oftentimes, there's not an easy recourse there. So our job, my job, your job, is to be preventive. That is by far the best thing, is to both be preventive in nature, because it's a lot harder once it happens to get recovery, unfortunately.
I have an 82-year-old mother who unwittingly gave strangers access to her computer just this year. It took a lot to get that situation cleared up, because they seemed like they were the real deal, but they weren't. So you're absolutely right when it comes to targeting our seniors. Also, AI these days, it sounds just like the person they say they are on the phone.
I had a major business leader just tell me this past week that his bank called him to verify certain information, because they had a record of him calling just the hour before, trying to change, quote, update some of their information and update their password, and it was a voice impersonation of his actual voice. It got some basic, it didn't get the challenge questions right, so they got suspicious and they stopped. But that was a very sobering moment, and technology, which is an incredible tool, what you can count on is that every new technological breakthrough, bad guys figure out how to utilize it to try to hurt innocent folks, and it requires all of us to be diligent.
Yeah, what's meant for good can be turned around so quickly and used for evil. Melissa, talk to me a little bit about how the average person or small business can learn how to protect themselves.
Yeah, so according to our research, knowledge is protective, meaning that if you understand how scams work, you can identify them, you can spot them, and you can walk away. So whether that means you delete the email, hang up the phone, delete the text, whatever it is, understanding what to look for is really important. So there are some general tips. You can always go to bbb.org, and there's a great page on there that's the top 10 general tips to look at, things that you can do to protect yourself. And then I would say there's red flags too. And so understanding what the red flags are that sort of cross through all scam types. So there's, our scam tracker has 30-some scam types, right? So you don't need to research every single scam type, but there's some things you can kind of teach yourself to know that this is something that doesn't feel right. The other thing, I'll mention a few of those in just a second, but another thing that we found with research is about 80% of people, according to our research, were able to avoid losing money to a scam because they followed their gut feeling. In other words, something about the situation didn't feel right to them, and rather than get pressured to continue, they were able to stop, talk to a friend, do more research, whatever, take a pause and really rethink whether or not they continue. And a few of those red flags, just as an example, are if you're being pressured to move quickly, you have to make a decision right away. There are too many things you have to decide on right away, right? So if they're pressuring you, that's a huge red flag to put a pause on it. If they're asking you to make an upfront payment for something that doesn't make sense, like they've offered you a great job, and now suddenly, okay, we just offered you a great job, we want you to pay for training. That's a huge red flag. There are things that you shouldn't have to pay for. Government grants shouldn't come with a fee. So that's another red flag. If they're telling you to pay a certain way, like a gift card is one that we're all knowledgeable about, but there are other ways they can also ask that are not traceable. That's a huge red flag. So another thing is just if it feels too good to be true, if there's something that just, wow, this price is perfect, exactly what I looked for, no one else has it at this price, that's another thing to pause. They are offering you a job that's work from home, great pay, not a lot of skills involved. Things that just feel like that they're just too perfect, that's when you also sort of take a pause. And so learning about sort of those common red flags of things that come with all scam types will help protect yourself, and it will help protect your family as well.
And some of it, as you said, begins with sort of following your gut.
Yeah.
What feels right, what doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
What about Scam Tracker? You mentioned it quickly. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so BBB Scam Tracker is our reporting and prevention website. You can go to it at bbb.org/scam tracker. And it's something that we created back in 2015. And essentially it's a way for anyone, a business or an individual, can go in and report any kind of scam activity. Whether you've lost money or personal information or not, we still want to hear about it, right? The more data we have about scams, the more we can share with law enforcement and our fraud fighting partners, and the more we can do to stop these scammers. So it's a great website. It's not only a reporting website. We did rebuild it last year with support from two of our partners, Amazon and Capital One. So it's a brand new, as of November 3rd, it's a brand new website. And the reason we call it a prevention tool as well is because we publish all of these scam reports so that anyone can go in and research them. So in other words, and you can search. You can search by email, URL, business name, phone number. So if somebody has sent you a text that looks suspicious or an email from somebody that looks suspicious, you can go to Scam Tracker and search and find out if somebody else has reported it. So that's why we call it a prevention tool. It allows you to see what other people have reported. And so we encourage people to report because it's protecting everyone, right? The more, like I said, the more data that we have and the more information we can share with everyone and we work with a lot of different partners. We do share our data with a lot of different people who are fighting this. And so that's why it's important to share that information, and I would encourage you to go to Scam Tracker and check it out at some point. We also have scam alerts at bbb.org, so you can sign up for scam alerts, and that will come out weekly and give you kind of an update on anything new that's happening, a trend that's happening that the Better Business Bureau is seeing in the marketplace.
So AJ Miyares, can you talk a little bit about some settlements of consumer protection cases that you've seen recently?
Well, I mean, I think they come in all shapes and sizes. I mean, we've had a recent settlement with a dog service company that was supposed to be providing pets as service animals, and the reality is they were providing ill-trained puppies that had no training whatsoever. You have Juul, which is a vaping company that we just settled a consumer protection complaint for marketing underage. TurboTax was marketing what was a free program service to as a paid service through their website. So we tackle an enormous amount. I would say the number one issue we have generally seen as far as consumer protection complaints have been automotive sales. Tend to be up there as long as a warranty, and people have done an enormous amount of work on their homes the last couple of years. A lot of complaints there. I would say the single biggest consumer protection complaint that our office has handled, and which we're very proud of, but it deals with every business on the planet because it deals with your workforce, has been the settlements with some of these large pharmaceutical companies. So about 20 years ago, some of these huge companies decided to treat Virginia like we were a chemistry test. They decided to come in. They pushed the medical providers to go to their customers and say, hey, we have this new wonder drug. Don't worry, it's not addictive. It's called OxyContin. It's great for back pain, work pain, sports-related injuries. And, you know, from a consumer protection standpoint, they knew that this was incredibly addictive, and it has had a devastating impact on Virginians. And so we have over a half a dozen lawsuits with different pharmaceutical companies. It's over $1 billion that's coming back to Virginia, and that money does not come to my office. It's money that the General Assembly and the governor set up the Opioid Abatement Authority to get help for people, because I think too many Virginians are struggling with addiction, and you know, we have a misnomer in our society that asking for help is a sign of weakness. I think asking for help is a sign of strength. So what we tell everybody wherever we go is there are more resources coming to Virginia back to help you with your addiction and get out of the cycle of addiction, because we want you to live your best life. And so many Virginians got caught in the cycle of addiction by accident. They literally got prescribed something incredibly addictive, and they got on that pathway. And candidly, there's nobody watching now or even in this room that does not have a loved one or is even themselves struggling with addiction. And so that is by far the largest consumer protection action we have taken during my tenure as Attorney General. It's also one that I'm proud of because its resources going to help people to live to their best God-given potential and their best life, and we're proud of the work we've done. But you could see it runs the gamut, from small to large, but either way it goes back to that theme that we view ourselves as the people's protector.
Where the drug settlements are concerned that you were just talking about, is it like playing a game of whack-a-mole where you settle this one over here, another one pops up over there, and you're chasing?
I mean, there's multiple. It's everything from, you know, McKinsey and Purdue Pharma and a couple different players and actors. We're close to wrapping up most of them. You know, I think you saw this nationwide. It was particularly painful in Virginia because they went into Southwest Virginia to kind of start the experiment, so to speak, of pushing this out, and devastated a lot of communities. And it's everywhere. I mean, I don't go to an area of Virginia where somebody doesn't come up to me dealing with the pain of addiction. And for businesses, it's estimated that 45%, there's several million able-bodied adults ages 18 to 49 that can work that are not working. It's estimated that 45% of those are not working because of addiction. So what I try to tell business owners is the addiction crisis we're dealing with our country is directly affecting your labor market. And it's something that I think is important that people in positions, elected leaders, talk about it, because sometimes you don't think it's that's addiction, that doesn't really affect business. It absolutely does, and we're trying to work with and make people aware of that. Now,
does that reach your office as well, Barry, when it comes to those types of crimes?
You know, to his point, you know, it's unique that I'm in this job role. You know, God put me in this job role. I live in Pittsburgh. I came back to this city for this job, this position. And my background as a car guy, car salesman, that's what I was. It is what it is. For 40 years, I loved it. But I worked with C.T. Woody at the Real Life program at the city jail. Well, C.T. Woody's, all my employees, he's our #1 ambassador, because I only got one. But he's our ambassador going out to triad events. Because of that Real Life program, I've got an inside look of employees that are looking for careers and jobs, a second or third chance. Real Life is still in business. Dr. Sarah Scarborough runs that. It's a great program, and there are employees ready to go to work. The HEART program with Carl Leonard in Chesterfield County.
Yeah, great program.
World renowned. You know, he has done amazing. I was involved in that very early on, and still recommend, to your point, people that can come into the workforce, because we need them back in the workforce. They need to be. At Haley, I hired 5 or 6 over time, and out of Richmond City or Chesterfield, and 1 out of Federal. And I made some decisions that were not smart. They did their best. They went back, and I lost. But they lost too, but they still tried to win. But then other people did very well going to work for us. So it comes to my office as my brand, only I think because of my background. The other 93 of me that do the same job, I don't know how well versed they are. And I've only been here a short time. I hope to get the platform to talk to them about this, because nationwide, this is critical. But if I can do one thing real quick, audience participation. Is that okay?
That's fine.
You're 6 o'clock news. You're going to tell me the rules.
Yeah, it's
But
your show.
We're going to get, so what year did the BBB start? Thank you, Mr. Dave Barrett. Dave Barrett is incredible. Vince, were you there or not really? Mark was there. I know it.
Said the tip
Mr.
of his
Fixit
tongue.
was there. So 1912. So I do a lot of these triad events. I look around. You guys aren't old enough yet to go to triad,
Yeah.
including the Attorney General. But
No,
guess
I
what?
speak at him, though.
I know you do, because I was at Williamsburg and I heard you
That's right,
speak.
that's right, that's right.
It's the first time I met you, actually. You didn't meet me, but I met you. And that's what we do for a living. So when I was at Haley, I was a sponsor for Tom Gallagher and the BBB for these triad events. And I used to speak. I was 38, 42, 45 years old. And I'd say, man, you guys are old, right? And they look at you, they're like my grandparents' age or my parents' age. That's the way to get their attention. They perk up and they, who are you talking about? Well, now, the first one I went in Chesterfield last year, I said, and you guys are old, but I checked my birth certificate. I'm with you now. I am a triad member. So I do this, and none of you have been at the triad. The reason I bring that up is none of you have been up at these events that I speak at. I do them a lot. Caroline County is my best. The sheriff up there, I love dealing with those guys. It's a small county. But so I ask you all, I'm Barry Moore. I'm a great-looking guy. I am professional. I'm an amazing speaker, big heart. I had a business card. I probably gave it to you, and I had a name tag, but I took it off because the TV guy said probably get rid of that decal, right? So that being said, reach in your pocket, give me $10. Each one of you, give me 10. I'm trustworthy. Trust me. And I will give you, this is other than you. I don't want to get involved with you. I don't. I will give you $100 back tomorrow night. I will invest it and give you $100 back in 24 hours. Why is nobody reaching for the money? Sounds like a scam. Sounds unbelievable. What else? Too good to be true. What are you, nuts? You can't make $10 into 100 in 24 hours. So they all say no. Not one of these seniors give me a dime. I'm hurt. Then I say, well, let's turn off the lights. We won't do it here because we got too much daylight. We turn off the lights. I did this in Williamsburg in one of the small rooms, Great Wolf Lodge, and I said, okay, now I'm going to phone call you. You're in the dark, or I tell them to close their eyes, and I call, and I say, hi, my name is Barry, and I see you own a 2018 white Cadillac Sedan DeVille. And the first person, and these seniors are adamant that they don't give information. They're so proud. They shut it down. But I'm a professional. I'm trained 10,000 miles away. I'm in a hut with an IP card, right? Whatever it's called. I'm getting a satellite signal, and I'm talking to these seniors on the phone. And the first thing they say is, I don't own a Cadillac. I am so sorry. My assistant, it's the third time they did it. I'm ready to fire them. Which car would I be calling about it? Is it, you don't have a Cadillac, was it the Buick? No, it's a BMW. Boom, got one thing out of them. And it wasn't white, was it? That was a white Cadillac that you don't own. Which color did you have? Well, it's red. Great. And it wasn't a 2018 Cadillac. What year is it? It's a 2022 BMW 325, whatever the series is, right? Great. And you're on the registration, ma'am? And again, my name is Barry, and I'm calling because your warranty is about to expire. Y'all got that call, didn't you? And I'm going to get you an extended warranty. I'm just telling you right up front, being in the car business for 40 years, buy one extended service plan, buy it from the dealership or the manufacturer. Don't buy it over the phone, and you don't need 3 extended service plans on the same car, just so you know. These people prey on people. They gather information. They might hang up, but they're going to use that data later on. So again, I asked for $10, gave them $100. They knew it was too good to be true, but yet on the phone, I can extract any amount of money because I'm a trained professional, tax-free business, and he's never going to catch me because, again, I'm how many miles away? 10,000 miles, and chances are I've got a gun pointed at me because I have to raise money for this group of people. That's how big these scams and frauds are, my opinion. And I've heard it over and over again. So if you didn't give me $10 when you start Triad next time and I meet you, please give me $10, all right? It's worth it. Trust me.
Ironically, I spoke at a triad event myself, Caroline County, about 3 weeks ago. About 3 weeks ago, yeah.
You're Lake Caroline or Landor? Where were you? Do you know?
I have to get back to you exactly. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
no,
got lost on
it's
the way
one of
there, to
them
be honest
two.
with you.
That's where I live up there, so they're all living
okay.
there.
Okay. And we'll forgive you for being a used car salesman. Did you say used car salesman?
Do use, service, I did it all.
Okay, I got you. Melissa, talk to me a little bit about data-driven research and how it enables law enforcement and nonprofits like the BBB to help people avoid scams.
Yeah, so I mentioned Scam Tracker and that we share that data. We also use that data to do research, which is available on our website for free. And we look at all kinds of different factors that can help people understand how to avoid scams. So, for example, with the risk report, we have a BBB Scam Tracker risk report. It's like an annual report that comes out every single year. It was published just in March. And it looks at the latest trends and scams and what the impact is overall based on what we're seeing in the data. So we have a risk index that sort of looks at what are the riskiest scams. And when I say that, what I mean is not just the most purported scams, so the highest volume of scams. We have what we call, what we look at is we look at the volume of a particular scam type. We look at the percentage of people who reported losing money to that scam type. And then the median dollar loss, meaning for that scam type, how much money are people losing? And it varies across all different scam types. By breaking it all down, we can understand a little bit more about what are the riskiest scams facing people overall. But we can also break it down by age and look at, okay, which scam types are impacting different age groups. And this is important for us because it allows us to personalize our consumer education initiatives. So we know, for example, that in 2022, employment scams were the number 2 riskiest overall, but the number 1 riskiest for ages 18 to 34 years old. So we know that younger people are being impacted by employment scams more than older people. We also know that ages 65 plus had home improvement scams as the number 1 riskiest. So there's a lot of research that is available for free at our website that you're welcome to download. We also look at really looking deep, taking deep dives into specific scam types. So we have reports about online shopping scams and all the tactics that you can look at, which are really, and we just, I wanted to mention online scams keep coming up. In a report that we did last year, since we've been collecting data, we see that online scams, meaning all types of online scams, have gone up 87%. So that's significant, right? The other piece of information I wanted to share around that is that not only have they increased substantially, people are more susceptible. So in other words, the percentages of people losing money to online scams are significantly higher than people who report phone scams or in-person scams. So these are things that we're tracking. And then the last thing I'll say on research, because I could talk about it for hours and I won't, I promise. We also look at other factors that may have an impact. So for example, people who are lonely are more susceptible to losing money. Yeah. So if they don't have anyone to talk to, they live alone, they're widowed, that's a factor people should understand that might make them more susceptible to losing money to scams. Financial vulnerability, also a factor that can impact your risk for scams. And so these are the kinds of things we also look at. And this is information that if you understand all of these things, it will help you in that prevention, understand how you can protect yourself, also understand how you can protect your friends and your family. So yeah, that's a little bit about our research.
So are those factors part and parcel of why you see that high increase? Did you say 87% increase in online scams? I mean, is the whole loneliness and the other factors you were talking about, is that why you're seeing that vast increase?
I don't know if it's, I think the loneliness has probably been around as a factor for a long time. I think that the percentage of online scams is a factor of increased use of technology substantially over the last several years. People are online a lot more, particularly after the pandemic. I think there's a lot of factors. New technology, social media's come out, like it's gotten way more popular. Gaming platforms, we're starting to see scams on I have teenagers, so I know they've been targeted. So yeah, so there's just, every time we introduce any kind of new technology, we're offering scammers a new way to target us.
Agent Miyares, did you have something you wanted to add to that conversation?
Well, I mean, I do think we're at this kind of unique moment in our society where we're the most connected but disconnected we've ever been as a country. 50% of Americans don't know the name of their neighbor. And you're exactly right. As you dealt with social isolation, which obviously all of us were social isolated to one extent or another during the 12 to 18 months for COVID. But what has happened is you have, and I agree with the Surgeon General when he says that loneliness is a health risk, and it's an epidemic right now. So you have a society right now that has in many ways replaced personal relationships with online. They're very disconnected. You've seen a disengagement from a larger society, whether it's from your church or your Kiwanis Club or your civic engagement. And I think what that happens is people get socially isolated. I think what happens is you're not at the water cooler talking to your friend or your neighbor or at your church barbecue or at your Kiwanis Club saying, I just got this email from, what, have you gotten this? Or somebody called me from the Social Security Administration and I figured it out, it was false. Make sure you don't fall for that. And so you have this disconnect that we're having in our society. And so technology is an amazing gift, it's an amazing tool, but I also think it also in some ways at times robbed us of some of the basic human interpersonal connections that gives us that wisdom of just hearing from your neighbor. And I think being part of a community, and that's one thing I would just encourage everybody, is not only is civic engagement and volunteer engagement important because you better your society, you also get to get an idea of what's going on. Yeah. And you get to talk to your friends. And you know, there's an abundance of counselors, there's wisdom, to quote from Proverbs. And so your friends provide that level of wisdom. And so I think if you're social isolated, you know, I would encourage everybody to get back reconnected back in society, particularly now that the COVID emergency is over. And that, ironically enough, the more you're connected with your friend and neighbor, the more you're going to hear about some of these scams, the more you're going to know what's coming down the pike, and you can be wise to it.
And that dovetails into the next question I was actually going to ask you, which is, what should people do? What, from your office's perspective, is the main thing that people need to do to protect themselves against fraud? And I guess talking to others and sort of being knowledgeable by getting connected again is one way that you were just talking about.
Yeah, if you see something, say something. Those that you trust, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. I have family members that call me. My mother calls me all the time, asking me, I got this email, what is this? No, Amazon's not calling you, asking you where your, you know, the package is and to give you your number. But build those level of trust. And we're an incredibly generous country and a generous people. If you have those people that you could trust, whether it is your son, your nephew, particularly for our seniors, but go to those that you could trust that can give you that perspective as well. And oftentimes it is something as simple as there's an enormous amount of great information online, and with the Better Business Bureau, you could probably Google, I got this email from this quote unquote source, is this accurate? And it really is as simple as, if you don't have a friend you can pick up the phone to call, use Google or Bing and go online, and they do a pretty good job of getting the information out there to be wary. It's a constant race, because the other side will change their tactics, but I think those are just some smart tips to use.
Does your office have a feel at all for how much embarrassment might play into folks not actually coming forward who have been scammed?
It is. Nobody wants to be, you know, embarrassed that they're at that situation. But what I always tell people is coming forward to report a crime. I don't care if it's a major crime, in the sense of a violent crime, or just a financial crime. What you're doing, it is not about you. It's about you are protecting future victims. And listen, it's hard. It is hard to ask somebody potentially to go to court and have to, you know, relive that they got duped. That's not easy. And then, you know, you're having to deal with a defense attorney that may cross-examine you. But what you're doing is you're taking an important system in the pursuit of justice, of protecting future victims. So that future victim, that fellow American down the street, doesn't have to deal with what you dealt with. It's not easy, but I view it as a sense of duty. It is actually a sense of civic duty, similar to being a volunteer and helping out, you know, in other volunteer areas. It is a civic duty you have, I think, when you're the victim of a situation like that, to come forward to other Americans and fellow Virginians aren't scammed.
Melissa, talk to me about the top 5 scams we saw in 2022, and was it different than what we saw in 2021, for example?
Yeah, a little bit. I do want to just follow up on the last
Sure.
topic real quick, and that is if you do lose money to a scam or personal information, people can be embarrassed or they may feel ashamed in some way, and I would urge people to be kind to themselves and not to beat themselves up, because
Amen.
it happens to everyone. We all get targeted, and even people who study this stuff lose money because these scammers are really good at what they do. They're professionals at it. And so I think that's a message we need to send out more to people is don't be embarrassed, don't be ashamed. Just do your research and try to figure out how to recover and how to protect other people, report it, and how to get your money back, but don't beat yourself up because it's happening to a lot of people. But back to your other question. The top 5 scams of 2022 that we saw, and that's overall for everybody, not broken out by age, were online purchase scams. That's those online shopping scams, those fake websites when you're on social media that say, going out of business sale, 50% off. Click here, it's exactly what you've been looking for. Number 1, riskiest, because they make up about 1/3 of all the scams we're getting reported. So by far the highest volume of any scam type. And then 75% of people reported losing money to that scam type, which is why it makes it risky. It's having a huge impact. I mentioned earlier employment scams came up from number 3 in 2021 back up into number 2 riskiest in 2022. So that's making a resurgence again. Cryptocurrency scams is still on our list at number 3. It dropped from number 2 to 3, but it's still on the list. Again, this is a great example of something new that people are learning about, and scammers jump in and take advantage because it's new and we don't have as much information perhaps as we should before we start to get involved with it. Home improvement scams, number 4 riskiest. That's when that person comes to your house and says, I can do this job today. I'm in your neighborhood. Give me your money. Hand me a check and I'll get it done. And they don't do the job. And then the 5th riskiest is advance fee loans, and that gets back to that advance payment that we talked about earlier as a red flag. When somebody tells you that they're going to give you a loan, you've gotten confirmation that you get it. Now you have to pay them an upfront fee. You pay them the fee, and then the loan doesn't materialize. So that's the 5th riskiest. So there is a little bit of shift. We do have a top 10 list in the report. I won't go through all of them. But I would tell you that phishing scams showed up in the top 10 for the first time since we were reporting. And romance scams also reappeared in our top 10 list, which is another. So those 2 were shifts on our list of risky scams.
I'd also say some of it's localized. So when we had our tornado hit Virginia Beach, you absolutely have a problem of fake, fraudulent Class A contractors that would just descend into these neighborhoods and go door to door knocking on doors. So some of it is localized where tragically if there is a disaster, a natural disaster in an area, whether it's a hurricane, a tornado, a flood, unfortunately you have scammers that will descend and try to prey on those vulnerable that just immediately when you have major damage to your home, you are desperate to get things working as fast as you can. Unfortunately, there's bad actors, and so be very, very wary of that.
And I was going to ask about that because when you talk about the bad actors 10,000 miles away on the other side of it, these are folks who are going through your neighborhood, going door to door.
Yes.
How easy is it to track down those bad actors and hold them accountable?
Well, that's why we have the Better Business Bureau in many ways. I mean, it is difficult, but you should trust and verify what they do. Don't ever sign a contract with somebody at your door. Absolutely. Make sure to see if they have a website. Go see if there's been complaints in the Better Business Bureau. There's a couple of steps you could take. Again, it goes into if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Be very suspicious if someone indicates they only want to be paid in cash. That is a huge warning flag as well. But yeah, sometimes it's right on your front door saying, hey, I can I'm just in the neighborhood cleaning gutters. I could do yours real quick for X amount, and then it becomes a problem. Yeah.
Now, Melissa, you have talked a lot about sort of the science, the stats, the scam tracker. You know, we've gotten the scientific look at this scamming from you. How can that benefit government agencies like the AG's office and other organizations? How can you all work together? Do you work together in that type of way?
We do. Like I said, we share a lot of data. We share a lot of our research as well. So I think it takes, this is such the kind of problem that is going to take government agencies and nonprofits and businesses, even the business community we've partnered with as well. So it's going to take people from all sectors, I think, coming together to tackle this issue. So I think it's working together to spread the word, to share that information we have. We have really valuable information, really valuable statistics and data. And so we're always looking for new partners to share that information. I would say that, I think I mentioned Scam Tracker. We also do collect data around scams targeting businesses as well. It's not just consumers. And so that's another thing that we share with different government agencies as well, trying to get the word out about what are the scam types that are impacting small business. And how do we share that? So one of the things we do to work together on is just encouraging people, reminding them why it's so important to report scams, because that information is really valuable for all of us, including all of the government agencies, but then coming together and sharing that information with each other and introducing it to new communities and new partners. And so really, that's how we're trying to do it. We're trying to just bring together as many partners as possible to share the information and get the word out.
And Barry, I imagine one of the themes that you want the public to hear and to know is that it's better, obviously, to be educated on the front end as opposed to having to come to you on the back end and say, you know, yikes, I think this happened to me.
It is absolutely much easier, much more satisfying to know we are preventing. So we have so many, every state set up, right? We have attorney general, we have laws, we have attorneys, we have in this state DPOR, and there's Carrie O'Brien in the back. Thank you for being here. From DPOR, she did an event here a couple weeks ago. It was great sharing what DPOR does. But working all of us together, sharing the data. When I was able to get Mel to come here to Richmond, I was so excited, no disrespect.
It's all right.
Thank you. But the wisdom that she's got for both of us and for Carrie's organization and all of us is huge. Can't afford it. We put it all together nationwide and we gather this data. So the Better Business Bureau, I talked to the choir here, most of you are accredited here in the room. So you already know what we stand for. You start with trust, it's how you go to market. You have insurance, you have licensing in place, Channel 8's accredited. Just about everybody in this room, I look around and you already get it. The issue is getting the consumers that are watching online, or some of you here, and all of our employees to understand the importance of bbb.com, or bbb.org, sorry, not .com, bbb.org. And the reason it's important for employees, we don't want your own employee, you're an accredited company, you don't want your employee to get scammed. Case in point, 3 months ago, Vincent knows this story because I asked, could this be true? A lady, I'm not going to mention the name of the company's accredited, wonderful. She works for the owner. She knows he's accredited. She shares data with me. She emails me, then calls me and says, Barry, I left Chesterfield County, $7,000 estimate to move. Before they got my stuff all in the packaged up to move to Florida, I was at $14,000. How could that be? Well, thank God she had the money. Her husband was ill. She's trying to do it all on her own. So what can you do to help me, Barry? But it doesn't end there. Got to Florida before she got her furniture out of storage, out of hock, whatever you want to call it, like a pawn shop almost. It was a total of $21,000 to this woman. She wrote the check because she had the money and didn't want to get her husband upset. She was embarrassed. What can she do after the fact? Absolutely going to be very difficult. It's going to be years because it's in her state. And just for kicks, I pulled it up. We didn't tell her, but we internally said, what if this employee of my friend that's accredited would have told his employee go to bbb.org, no matter what you do. The company she dealt with was in Atlanta, F rating, not accredited. The broker they went through, F rated, never would have gone with them, right? But again, after the fact is not good. So we want to share with employees. That's why I say, and it's a different culture. Again, I work for each of you. You're never going to get somebody in my job role. I'm the president and CEO. I golf a lot, and I hang out a lot. I get paid very well, and I just look good, okay? Very few get their hands dirty. This community deserves it. You as accredited businesses deserve it. An accredited business has a seal that says accredited business. Sorry, Mel, but the A+ rating and the A, and they're not accredited, as far as I'm concerned, means nothing. Up to you to make a decision as you're a consumer. But what you do need to know, any business could have that rating, but not everybody could be accredited. Accreditation means, yes, they pay us a fee. To give you an idea, it could run from $550 to $1,500 a year. They pay a fee, but what they get back, if they utilize everything we provide and the stories we tell, can make them lots of money and very happy employees. So our brand is critically important. We are more relevant today than we ever have been because internationally people are preying on us. People are storm chasers. I talked to Gail and we talk about storm chasers. I got a little history in that world of selling roofing and solar up in Pittsburgh. So I went to the training and met these storm chasers. They're scary. And they take, some of these people come to town. Deport put it out with the Virginia Beach story, put out a notice, I think within 2 hours.
Yep.
I think Carrie or your office put something out there for the consumers in Virginia to beware. And it's not the money or cash they could take from you. Where you really know you're going to get stiffed is they ask you to go get a gift card from Walmart.
Yeah.
They discount a job from $20,000 to $11,000 because you're a nice guy and they really need to work. And don't worry about these local companies. They'll never get the supplies. They're not prepared. I am. I'm from New Mexico. I've got 20 people on a bus coming here right now. They're going to do the job. And then instead of 20,000, it's going to be 11, and I'll do it for 10. If you give me a gift card for 7, follow the math, 7, and what don't you ever get? The roof never gets put on, and they're not going to be there the next day. It happens all the time. Every day, so you look at these stories and say, this is so simplistic. I would never fall for it. Then why are people falling for it?
Right.
Why are they still? Why am I still in business? I don't want to talk about complaints. I want to talk and help accredited businesses protect their employees, protect their marketplace, because a marketplace that starts with trust takes all the other things away and makes this life so much easier. And the number one holiday, and Mel almost gave it away, what's the number one holiday for ripoffs? Christmas is always number one, especially at these triad events. Anybody else? Romance, Valentine's Day. Number one day. Why? Lonely, I've fallen in love, Mrs. Right's out there, I'm widowed, I'm living on my own, my kids don't want me anymore, they're busy with their lives. I might not have any kids, I'm living in a place, and they start with me, and they come at me, Mrs. Wonderful, she lives somewhere else in another country, so I can't just drive there, very smart, and she is just wonderful. She loves me. She loves me like nobody ever has loved me, but I got to help fund her trip over here. And the first check goes, then the second, and then little Johnny, the grandson, got sick. I can't come to Virginia to be with you, Barry, for life. I'm 85 years old. For life, I'm not going to come, right, because I got to pay for little Johnny's surgery, and I need another $5,000. What am I going to do? I'm already in for 15. What's another 5 to meet Mrs. Wright? And she'll be here in a couple days. They hit you on Valentine's Day. They prey on you. And then you know what happens, and a little bit has been assumed here. They never tell their family. And why don't they tell their family? Embarrassed. They don't want to hear the kid, are you stupid? Or you just got rid of our inheritance. What are you? I told you, Dad, nobody's going to love you like that from 20,000 miles away. You didn't have to give them all that money. And it goes on and on and on. And it becomes a mental shutdown. And the person just becomes depressed. It's very sad that the number one love day at our calendar, February 14th, people fall victim each and every year.
Mr. AG, I did want to give you an opportunity to talk directly to the crooks who might be watching this program today, both online, maybe live right now. What would you say to the crooks and criminals out there who are doing the scamming?
That the Commonwealth of Virginia takes it incredibly seriously, that it's not just violent criminals that our office is coming after, but also those that are preying on the most vulnerable, including our seniors. And so we have a huge number of resources between the Office of the Attorney General, our Consumer Protection Unit, working in conjunction with the Virginia State Police and local police and federal law enforcement. And so if you are preying on the most vulnerable, you're going to be on our radar, and we're going to come after you with every tool and resource that we have.
And with that, wanted to open up questions to those of you who might be here in the audience who wanted to ask a question. I will come around and give you the mic. I know we had a pretty comprehensive discussion, but I'm sure there are some questions out there. Go ahead and just state your name and your question, please.
Eric, my name is Gail Turner. I'm with the Storytellers Channel, and I came prepared. It's show and tell. I'm a storyteller. I received an email to my business email going, this woman was getting married, and she wanted me to tell stories in her wedding service. I've never heard of such a thing. I've told stories all over the place, and I went, oh, this is marvelous. So eventually we did a little negotiation, and I say, I want to do this so much, I will actually make a wedding gift to you. I'll cut my rate as a wedding gift. Well, I started getting emails, have you deposited the check yet? Have you deposited the check yet? No, no, no. And I'm like, don't worry about it. We can work this out. I'm sure the check will come eventually. And then this lovely U.S. Postal Service envelope arrives, and inside is a check for $2,000 more than what I wanted for a deposit. And I reach back out and say, yes, a check came, but it's for the wrong amount. And well, it turns out that the friend who was writing the check, they got it confused and they added the photographer's money to it. Well, so if you could just deposit that and give me that money, I'll take care of that. And I said, ma'am, my CFO will not let me do that. But I'll tell you what I would do, if you have them send me a W-9 and an invoice, I'll be happy to do that for you. We now get another email a couple of days later, I'm sorry, I haven't responded because my father died. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, what a horrible time. I'm sure this is awful for you. But once again, I can't do this. I could open up an account for you if you wanted to do more business with me. Well, then another one arrives with another check for $2,000 more than what I'd asked for. But the first one came from a place, by the way, Barry, I went online to check. I didn't find this company name. I should have checked for scams. That was my problem. But it turns out that in Montour Falls, New York, which is Schuyler County, I called the clerks in both places, and they said they had nobody there. But this guy has now shown up from Atlanta, same name. Have you run across this? And by the way, can I cash these checks? I'm just curious.
Don't cash the check. This is the first I personally heard of that.
I'm going to give it to you.
Okay, I will give it to Mike. What I'd like for you to do is make sure you have your contact information in there, your phone number and your email. Perhaps leave a card so my consumer protection can take a look and then follow up with you.
I'm looking forward to hearing this.
All right.
It's already been a story for my newsletter, so soon I'll have a story for something else.
I mean, you have to give them an A for effort, I guess. They definitely tried.
And I'll give you all of the email address. I'll send you the whole chain of emails because she's compelling.
Yeah, what I would tell
That's the
anybody,
business.
I tell everybody who's been a victim of a crime, while it is fresh in your mind, write it down. You'd be surprised how quickly details can get hazy. Preferably, you can do it on a Word document, or even if it's on a notepad, write down all the details, when, where you were, time, anything that you may think is innocuous that really was not in any way important, write it down. Background noise that you heard on the other side of on the phone, anything that you can that could be potentially, because what you may think is irrelevant actually could be completely relevant. But I look forward to getting that information and reviewing it with my team. Thank you.
I got to tell you, if it turns out this is legit, I'm going to feel so bad.
So I would say
It's not.
It's not.
it's not, and I would say
Wake
the
them up.
one scam type that wasn't on our list that has been since we started reporting is fake check scams.
Yeah.
And fake check scams are tactics that are used across all scam types. Employment scams is another example of they're constantly used with fake check scams. So what they'll do is they'll reach out, they hire you, then they say, well, we've got to send you money for your home office equipment. They send you a check very much like that, looks official, tell you to put it in your bank account, And then what they typically do is say, now you need to transfer it to this other account. This is the account we use to pay for it. So then before you realize it's a bad check, you've transferred it to another account, and then you're out the funds because it was real money that you transferred, right? So this is a very common tactic, and they get very creative in the way that they use it.
Well, the hairs went up on the back of my neck pretty early, so we just kept this dialogue going, so I look forward to hearing.
This could come out in a lot of industries. So the car business, again, I started in New Jersey, got my master's, and then I moved to Richmond. People in Richmond were in the scam world were almost amateurs compared to those guys up north, I'm just saying. But they used to try to show up, and I got taught by, I was 25, 26, and got taught by some very, very smart people. So people would come in with a personal check for $10,000 and then overpayment, and let's make it more realistic. Today, a list price of a car is $50,000, and you could buy it online for $45,000, and this person comes in, and we are so blessed, they're gonna pay us $50,000. They got that young salesman running around, he's gonna make a big gross. The guy says, well, here's my check, writes it up for $55,000, says, I only got one more check. And believe it or not, up until about 10, 15 years ago, dealers used to write a check back out for that difference and then find out 10 days later that check is bad. The car's gone, good luck tracking it down. So that's why you'll have to give certified checks now. Even wiring money has become an issue. Guy in the roofing
Huge
business,
issue.
$47,000. The wire was somehow deflected into somebody else's account, and he got ripped off.
When I was in private practice, our law firm had a spoof where they had hacked into the email account of somebody at the bank who said, we have updated wiring instructions from you. Yep. Now, our firm had a policy that they would always call. This was a real estate closing. They would call and read off the numbers. And when they started reading off the numbers, on the other end, they're like, wait, we never sent you an updated wiring instruction. And so they're very, very, very sophisticated in how they're doing it. And so that's actually something people to be aware of. Don't assume just because you got an email from even a teller at a bank that is giving you wiring instruction that their email account has not been hacked. Sometimes the best thing you do is simply pick up the phone and make a phone call.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In case you missed it, though, do not deposit that check. Just,
Well, I was going to say, my daddy used to say that it's very difficult to cheat an honest man because an honest man doesn't want something for nothing.
It's true.
Damn, I want that check so bad. However,
I think we all would like it, but you want it the right way.
There's no education, the second kick from a mule, though. So just,
Thank you. I'm Tom Winfrey, and I'm a director and proud director of the BBB. My sense is that these people get away too much. And I was just wondering, what is the track record of catching them and putting them away and that type of thing? I mean, is it very difficult? What's your percentage of
I mean,
catching 'em?
candidly, one of the problems, I mean, some people may not view it as a problem, some people may view it as a problem. I view it as a problem. But the general rule of thumb is larceny and embezzlement and consumer protection crimes do not carry the same penalty as you would say in other financial sector crimes just don't. Now, as a society, we generally determine acts of violence are going to carry heavier penalties. But I would also argue it can be pretty devastating. It may not be technically a quoted act of violence, but if you're a senior and you've had a large chunk of your savings stolen from you, that is devastating. There also is a sense, candidly, with a lot of local law enforcement, that they're spending an enormous amount of time on homicides and robberies and sexual assaults, that oftentimes their most under-resourced unit is their financial crime or the white-collar crime unit. And for a lot of the younger detectives, it's a lot more exciting to be on, say, a homicide team than, say, a white-collar crime team. And a lot of it is there's a level of a lot of sophistication. You almost have to have an accounting background to do it. Now, we have some prosecutors in our office that are very, very good at white-collar crimes. They're very good at catching it. And that's something they almost have turned to a specialty. But it is very time-inducive to do so. So you're right. And that's why preventive measures is so important, because it is difficult. Oftentimes, solving a financial crimes case is infinitely harder than, say, solving a homicide case, where normally it's just motive, and usually the victim knows knows the person that has committed the murder. That is very different in a financial crime case where oftentimes it's a total scam. You don't know who they are, or they're out of the country. So it is difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat for you, and it's a matter of both resources and the level of sophistication of what the crime is.
Hello, my name is Paige Ewell, and I'm another proud board member, just like this Mr. Winfrey here. Question for Melissa, real quick. Is the scam tracker, is that updated regularly?
Yes, it is. In fact, the way it works with Scam Tracker, which is unique, I think, is that people submit scams, and it goes, all of the scams by zip code go to local BBBs. And so all the local BBBs, this is an important piece of it that I didn't mention, they review these scams, right, to make sure that they're legitimate. So we don't publish every single thing that's submitted because some of them are not true scams. But I would tell you that a significant amount of them are published. They're reviewed. We redact personal information so that, because sometimes we tell you not to do that, but sometimes people forget and put their own personal information in there. So they're reviewed, and then they're published by the local BBBs, and that is updated every single day. So you're seeing constant change on that platform all the time with the most recent scams. Good question, thank you.
Hi, I'm Vincent Tucker, board chair for the BBB. Barry, why is it important for businesses to become a member of the BBB?
And that's a great question. And the first thing I'm going to say, Mr. Chairman, because Melissa's here, we're not members.
Sorry.
I've been getting reprimanded a lot, but I BBB here. Don't forget, they're the grand poobahs here. But we're accredited members, okay? We're not members. There's not even members is not used. You're an accredited business. And the reason it's important is to differentiate you versus, let's say this half of the room is all in one industry and the rest of you are not. You're not accredited, but you're all in the same industry. These folks have been vetted. They've done an application. We've checked them out in up to 37 areas. We have a team that does that. We look through it. We say thumbs up. They're accredited. Maybe the two in the back, Donnie, we'll get you in. The newest accredited business member back there, Mr. Shredded himself. He shreds every document for everybody. But let's say Donnie doesn't pass, so sorry, Donnie, you're not accredited. But everybody else is. The rest of you do not apply. If this group is smart and goes to market, don't forget, we got 900,000 inquiries asking if all of you, whatever your industry was, are accredited. If I'm looking for that, and 900,000 people think it's important, and they're going to go with one, they might get bids from 3 of them, fair enough, but at least they're in the right swimming pool. You guys aren't even, you're not even swimming, your pool's empty, you're not going to get those inquiries. So to ask part of your question, if you want business and you want leads and you want people to know you start with trust, become accredited. That answers part of it. Then we watch these folks. We don't watch you guys. You guys can get complaints and it's going to show up in your score and all that. It's automated. We don't even talk to you. These folks, if they go bad, down a bad path, they hire that bad manager. It's not usually the owner of the business. That once you get these guys as business owners, they made a decision, a conscious decision to raise their hand and say, I want to stand for something different. I want all my processes to start with trust, integrity, ethics. That's who we are. So it starts your whole business. It's what you lead with. So when Larry comes to you with his sales team from Channel 8 and says, let's do some marketing, you're already scripted, practice, and rehearsed because you're accredited, you start with trust, integrity, ethics. Oh, sounds like the right business to get a price from. So the more I push as a leader here, and my board supports me, and my businesses support me, we will turn all the consumers into a world that this becomes reality. We've got to go to bbb.org. Whether it goes nationwide and we can really raise the numbers, I have no idea. But accredited businesses, as long as they tell you they're accredited, not their rating. Their rating, again, I'm A+, so what? What does that mean? I'm accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Yeah, you pay me a check. It's very small. You're a member of the chamber, you're a member here, you're a member of Executive Women's International, you're a member of Rotary. What else is out there? There's so many different things. You want to be part of the community. We're the one thing in the community, although we're a nonprofit, we're not really here to serve other than to protect people in a way different than every other brand that's out there for profit. So, don't know how I did that. You're going to tell me later, and if I still have my job, I'll do great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One last question, if anyone has one.
Nobody has one. I'd like to make a statement why I'm an accredited business.
Give you 30 seconds to tell us.
I'll be succinct.
Like 30 seconds, really.
I see this as a community of people who have stood up together to say that we want to do business in a community that is supportive of one another and does not want any of our people to be defrauded. I use the metaphor that we are the individual trees in a palisade that are protecting our communities from the barbarians at the gate. It's as simple as that. I want to be seen as one of the good guys.
What he said.
I think that deserves applause. Somebody was clapping. Yeah. One of the good guys.
Put that in the first short, right?
So we have reached our time limit at this point, and I want to thank our panelists, each one of you, for taking part in today and for getting the information out there. I am persuaded and certainly hopeful that the information will get into the right hands and that it will prevent somebody else from being scammed, and they'll know where to go and where to get the necessary information they need in order for that to happen. So thank you very much, and on behalf of the Better Business Bureau of Central Virginia and WRIC-TV, we thank you for your attendance. Those of you watching online, be well, and if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Thank you.
Only watch Eric at 6 o'clock.
That's right.
There you go.
How's that, man?